On Friday, February 8th, the blizzard of 2013 hit our town. The residents of Kingston braced the storm collectively, and the employees did what they had to do to ensure that. Fire Chief Heath, Police Chief Splain, Highway Superintendent Bazler, and others had to juggle the emergency needs of the town, manage staff around the clock, and deal with emergency situations as they changed around the clock. The plows would come through only to have another tree blocking the way. The fire department went from call to call to call, as well as the police department, crisscrossing the town, avoiding all the down lines and trees. With power out, police radios were out. Cybercom Communications were in immediate contact with Chief Splain, walking him through the process to restore emergency radio communications. It was like that every minute. There were emergencies every moment throughout the storm. Due to the power outages, the police and fire dispatchers were not only fielding the Kingston calls, but also Duxbury's calls for service, as they had no power. Additional dispatchers were needed to handle the call volume. The sewer department had emergency needs, contacting all the homeowners with grinder pumps. No power, no pump. Shoveling, clearing pump stations. Acting Town Administrator Nancy Howlett had to accommodate the needs of at least the police department. And I say that because I know that, but I'm sure everybody called her. Had changing hours, etc. Whatever needed to be done was done during this storm. Have faith in that. Deb Mueller, the dog officer, animal control officer, had to respond to the emergency needs of pets in towns as people evacuated, and she did. KEMA was called into action, prompting the superintendent of schools, John Tuffy, to open the intermediate school as an emergency shelter with yet another town employee, Dottie Neal, manning the helm with Nancy Bonarico backing her up. The National Guard was instrumental in accessing and evacuating residents along roads that were impassable. The only thing that I could liken this activity to is an anthill. Something hits the anthill and every ant comes out to fix the problem, whatever the role. That was Kingston on February 8th, and we came together and we survived it. At this time, I'd like to recognize the generosity of some very special friends of the town of Kingston, and some that went above and beyond. On Saturday morning, February 9th, I arrived at the shelter shortly after noon. I was met by our state rep, Tom Coulter. He's the first on my list that I would like to thank for his attitude, aptitude, and fortitude. Rep Coulter put into motion the actions that made the guests of the Kingston Emergency Shelter comfortable. Within hours, businesses that were contacted stepped up to help our residents. Hannaford's donated food for Saturday night's dinner and for Sunday's breakfast. 2 displaced residents had stepped forward and offered their services. They were cooks and they made meals for upwards of 200 people over the next few days, using only a stovetop as the shelter was on generator power with limited appliances and electricity working. Silver Lake Regional School Superintendent John Tuffy had opened the school and offered whatever assistance he could, his staff. He extended a custodian to us around the clock, then doubled the staff up as our needs grew. Mr. Tuffy could not have been more accommodating. Thank you to Ed Holmes and Brian Ferreira, the custodians who went above and beyond, and Lydia Fernandez for her patience with us as we took over her kitchen, and then reclaiming her kitchen lunchtime on Monday. Next was Cisco. Cisco is a restaurant distributor and our neighbor in Plimpton. Their motto is good things come from Cisco, Boston. I saw the tractor trailer on the highway and I thought that should be wicked good things come from Cisco, Boston. They couldn't have done more for us. Tom called the president of the company and asked for help. He said, email me a list, whatever you need. I sent the first list, then the second, then the third. Whatever we needed, they were going to help. In addition, one of their sales reps came by the shelter to check us out. She stayed and volunteered over the next three days. Thank you so much to Christine for coming out and helping. Sheriff Joe McDonald came by and offered his services. He provided and delivered, which was major. We didn't have roadways. 20 additional beds, laundered and sterilized the blankets after the close of the shelter. He offered his Code Red service. Anything we needed, he was at our disposal. Representative Coulter was still working on bedding for our swiftly growing numbers. By midnight, a delivery of 150 cots, blankets, and pillows were delivered from the American Red Cross due to his diligence. On Sunday, a delivery truck pulled up. It was an artisan bread delivery from Hearth Bakery in Bourne. It was originally prepared for the Four Seasons in Boston the day before, but due to the roads being closed, they couldn't deliver it, so they heard about our shelter and delivered it to us. Some quick thinking on his part and diligence in finding the nearest emergency shelter benefited us. For a change of pace, Tom Coulter ordered pizza for the guests on Sunday night. It was a late-night surprise delivery for the guests, and our staff volunteers really enjoyed it. On Monday, Walmart in Plymouth had finally opened, and I think I may have been their first phone call. Hygiene was at the top of the list. This was day 3, and people had left their homes without preparing. Please, Walmart, could you donate toothbrushes, toothpaste, cloths, and other products to help our close quarters seem more tolerable. And they did. You would have thought it was Christmas. Charlie Comeau stopped by with a dolly full of water and soda for residents from the Kingston Lions. The Dunkin' Donuts on Summer Street and on Main Street donated coffee and donuts, which was a welcome for the residents when they woke up. Stop and Shop was called. They sent a delivery of goodies. An employee of Sullivan Brothers pulled up front asking for who was in charge and said, "Quinn sent me." Popped his trunk and he had a trunk full of goodies for the residents. By noon Saturday, there were 60 people at the shelter. That evening, there were at least 80 spending the night. 72 people were fed for breakfast that Sunday, with the numbers for lunch swelling as people now came in to get a hot meal, warm up, and leave. By Tuesday, as power was restored to the town, our guest numbers started to decrease. Once we hit the magic number, 25, we started to break down the school shelter and relocate to the senior center. Amazingly, that morning, their brand new generator was online. I know that Linda Felix was happy to be back home. Thank you, Linda. Thanks to Mark Beaton for cooking the last dinner at the shelter. For the first time in 4 days, I did not have to think, plan, acquire, juggle dinner for the masses. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mark. Our last night in operation, we had 11 guests overnight, which included 3 out-of-town residents, East Bridgewater, Duxbury, and Halifax. The shelter remained open until Wednesday at approximately 3 p.m. The really amazing part of this storm is how we survived it and how it worked, the volunteers. People came out in droves with their families. Guests of the shelter became volunteers, helping each other in every possible way. They were put to work. Thank you to our cooks, our angels, Kendra Leah, Marsha Leah, and Candace Hellman. To Auntie Mary, Mary Smith, the unofficial head of security. To Noelle Ballinger, my PR captain, who got the word out through Facebook. To Jack and Lynn Bellingham, known as Charlestown Jack, who did whatever we needed. He cooked, he cleaned, and I think he even strong-armed a few. Elaine Fiore, Sandy McFarland, Shelley and Doug Loring, my all-star family, Rich, Gretchen, and Madeline Emmets, who came every single day and did whatever was needed, whatever was asked. To Peter Bonsack, who knocked on doors, whatever I needed, whatever had to be done, he was the muscle, and he was ready and willing to work with my poor husband, who did everything that I asked of him. I called them the Twin Towers. To the Hanson family, the Petitis, David, Joanna, and Fred Pepe, John and Nancy Creed, Pam Wydette, Bob Shea, Kristen Tanous, David and Kate Kennedy, and children, Ken Moali and his family, Jin Chun, Ellen, Sophie, Rachel, and Mike Chun, Sandy Kearns and family, Mark Grant, Jim Grant, Mary Donovan, Madison Murphy, Leslie Ann McKee I would like to thank 3 times. She volunteered on the first day. The word went out the second day, she came back again, only for me to find out that she opened her own home as a shelter, left her home to come and help me because the call went out. Liz Wainwright, Tricia Arietta, Christine Ward, the Gilmore family, especially young Grace. Young was the little girl who volunteered and danced for the crowd. She's an Irish step dancer. And we had a little bit of entertainment, and it was very nice for the residents to see that, and it really made a difference. I know there were people that I've missed, and I apologize. But know this, you made people feel welcome, comfortable, and cared for. Lastly, I'd like to thank my brother and sister officers of the Kingston Police Department and the faceless Kingston Police and Fire dispatchers. For those of you who know me, I ask for the world. They not only gave it, but kept coming back and asking what else they could do. During the storm, they helped deliver a baby, the funniest story I've heard in a year, carried people through waist-high snow, shoveled out scores of homes to get to residents, became bus drivers to deliver people. John Neal is now called Officer Impossible. I know what his retiring job is going to be. He's going to be a bus driver. And ran every errand that I threw at them, including going to our residents' home to turn on water to prevent burst pipes, pick up medicines, and anything that would allay the concerns of our residents. They cooked, cleaned, set up cots, broke down cots, delivered food, came to the shelter to help guests, whatever their needs, including escorting less mobile guests to the restrooms. Some came and donated what time they could to the shelter after working many hours on shift. These officers treated everyone like they were family. Glenn Bushy came on his own time with his own 4-wheel drive and delivered hour after hour people to the shelter. People really stepped forward. I have never been more proud of my department. Thank you to Timmy Ballinger and Andy Loring for not only your work above and beyond for the residents, but for all you did to help me for 6 crazy days that I will not soon forget. I am absolutely certain that every department has similar stories of people stepping up, and I hope we all hear these stories. This is what makes Kingston so special. Oh yeah, thanks to my husband too.